I'm the director of the Walker County Public Safety Communication Center. On a daily basis, in a 24-hour period, phone calls we receive are approximately 325 to 350 per day in a 24-hour period. Of those 325 to 350, we dispatch actually approximately about 225 to 250 of those phone calls that we receive. When I include those phone calls, I'm including both emergency calls, such as 911 calls, and non-emergency lines that we have. The requirements to become a dispatcher are a high school education or GED and age of 18. Now, once we interview and go through the interview process and hiring process, if we do hire someone, there are requirements and trainings that we provide. Our dispatchers are currently certified by the state of Texas, TCOL, Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. We do receive a basic certification for that. In order for them to receive that basic certification, we provide in-house training, and then we also provide some training out of the agency in order for them to get to that basic training or basic certification. We also provide CPR training, which we do. We send them somewhere for that, so they are CPR certified. We also provide emergency medical dispatch training. It's called short EMD. That is a training, a 3-day course that we send our dispatchers to for medical training, for the medical instructions. They can provide post-dispatch instructions and pre-arrival instructions on medical calls, and it is done through a software program. There is protocol for questions that they have to ask, and depending on what that medical call is, whether it be a stroke or a heart attack or broken arm, broken leg, there is protocols and questions that they ask for those types of calls. We handle both or all police, fire, and emergency medical services for Walker County. Those types of calls can be anything from a burglary, where someone comes home and finds that someone's broken into their house, or assault calls, to your medical emergencies such as strokes or heart attacks. We also dispatch fires, so we provide services for fire department. When it comes to fire and EMS, there are standards and there are certain questions depending on the type of call that we do ask. So yes, there is operating procedures in place for the different types of calls that we receive. When you first get into this business, yes, it may be hard to make that transition because a lot of people do not realize what we deal with on a daily basis, whether it be an infant death. Unfortunately, we have those. And sometimes that can take a toll. So I think at first it is a tough transaction, and it's not for everybody. But you learn how to cope and how to transition on your own in your own ways.
I'm a field supervisor with Huntsville, Walker County EMS. We get a large variety of calls. Typically, we see a lot of cardiac patients, a lot of trauma patients with I-45 and the other major FM roads that cut through Walker County. Most of our ambulances are located within the city of Huntsville. We typically in the city would have anywhere from a 5 to 10 minute response time, but in some of the more distant areas in the county, it could be up to 20 to 25 minutes. One of the things that our medical director, one of the sayings that he has is we can provide the same care that you would receive in an ER for the first half hour. We can provide a lot of different types of life-saving medications for people in cardiac arrest, allergic reactions, people who are suffering from shock from some type of traumatic event. We carry cardiac monitors. These allow us to take a look at someone's heart to determine if they're having some type of cardiac event. That also allows us to make sure that they get to the most appropriate facility. Nowadays, most EMS certification programs are getting into college level classes. Your EMT basic class will typically be a semester long of a college class, and then they will build off of that. You can actually obtain your associate's degree in EMS nowadays. In the state of Texas and most part of the country's EMS organizations do have to have standardized protocols, which every organization has a medical director that will oversee the operation, not necessarily the operations, but the medical care that is provided by that organization. One of the most memorable calls was when I was getting my paramedic probably 12 years ago. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. We responded to a female who was in labor. Once we got on scene, she had just been released from the hospital. They thought she was in false labor. She got in the shower. She started crowning. And once we got her in the back of the ambulance, we were on the way to the hospital. We were able to deliver the baby. As a field supervisor, usually in the mornings, we'll review reports from the previous day. Anything that our crews respond to, we read their reports, make sure that there's nothing that's outside of protocol, that they've documented appropriately, things like that. We'll respond to any major calls, anything that's going to need an extra set of hands, a cardiac arrest, a car accident requiring jaws of life extrication, things like that. Big events we'll respond to as well. And then we're a small organization, so we also kind of carry some of the administrative responsibilities as well. We encounter a lot of the same dangers that the other public safety disciplines do. We respond to accidents, fire scenes. Probably one of the most dangerous things that we respond to is like your domestic violence situation where the dispatcher may not typically have the information that the scene is not necessarily safe at the time. So that can put our crews in danger when they respond to those scenes, because those are one of the more volatile situations that we deal with in our line of work.